Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my read through and review of The Book of the Damned by Charles Fort. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show, including Patreon and the merch store and PayPal, over at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. And I'm, again, whenever I start these shows, I want to mention to everyone, as far as the book I'm reading here, this was written in the early 1900s. So there may be some scientific things that have been discovered since then that are talked about in this book in a more mysterious manner. But still an amazing book. Also, as I'm reading, keep in mind that the thoughts and words I am reading and sharing, they are of the author, may not necessarily be the same as ours here. So, also, I am going to mispronounce things because there are some words in other languages and just other hard words or names in general. And so just want to apologize for that in advance. So, getting back to this now, he was just talking about this this paper like material that fell from the sky, almost paper like dark or black paper like material, and in different parts of the world over in Europe. So, I think we're still in the middle of that whole discussion. And let me get back to the material here. And I'm glad that I left off on the beginning of a paragraph. That is the best way to go with these kinds of shows. So here we go. We're still in the middle, I believe, of chapter 4. We'll find out whenever we end with it. It says, or a whirlwind with a distribution as wide as that would not acceptably, I should say, have so specialized in the rare substance called marsh paper. There'd have been falls of fence rails, roofs of houses, parts of trees. Nothing is said of the occurrence of a tornado in northern Europe in January 1686. There is no record only of this one substance having fallen. There's record only of this one substance having fallen in various places. Time went on, but the conventional determination to exclude data of all falls to this earth, except of substances of this earth and of ordinary meteoric matter, strengthened. Annals of Philosophy, 16-68. The substance that fell in January 1686 is described as, quotation marks, a mass of black leaves, having the appearance of burnt paper, but harder and cohering and brittle. Marsh paper, in quotation marks, is not mentioned, and there is nothing said of the coniferous, which seemed so convincing to the Royal Irishman. Vegetable composition is disregarded, quite as it might be by someone who might find it convenient to identify a crook-necked squash as a big fishhook. Meteorites are usually covered with a black crust, more or less scale-like. The substance of 1686 is black and scale-like. Words are hard. If so be convenient, if so be convenience, leaf likeness is scale likeness. In this attempt to assimilate with the conventional, we are told that the substance is a mineral mass, that it is like black scales. It is like the black scales. Why am I having a hard time tonight? Anyway, that cover meteorites. The scientist who made this identification, in quotation marks, was von Gratus. He had appealed to the god chemical analysis. Again, these are Fort's words, and he's trying to make points here, not anyway. Or the power and glory of mankind, with which we're not always so impressed. But the gods must tell us what we want them to tell us. We see again that though nothing has identity of its own, anything can be identified, in quotation marks, as anything. Or there's nothing that's not reasonable. If one snoopeth not, that's quite the useful word, it's exclusions. But here the conflict did not end. Berzelius examined the substance. He could not find nickel in it. At that time, the presence of nickel was the positive test of meteoritic matter. Whereupon, with a supposititious positive standard of judgment against him, I wish he wouldn't use that word. Anyway, von Gratus revoked his identification, in parentheses here, Annal and Magazine of Natural History, 1-3-185. This equalization of eminences permits us to project with our own expression, which otherwise would be subdued into invisibility. That it's too bad that no one ever looked to see hieroglyphics, something written upon these sheets of paper. If we have no very great variety of substances that have fallen to this earth, if upon this earth's surface there is infinite variety of substances detachable by whirlwinds, two falls of such a rare substance as marsh paper would be remarkable. A writer in the Edinburgh Review, 87-194, says that at the time of writing, he had before him a portion of a sheet of 200 square feet of a substance that had fallen at Carolath, Carolath, and Silesia, Silesia, in 1839, exactly similar to cotton felt, of which clothing might have been made. The god microscopic examination had spoken. The substance consisted chiefly of coniferous. Journal of Asiatic Society of Bengal, 1847 part PT. I'm wondering if that means part. I'm not sure. 1-193. That March 16th, 1846, about the time of a fall of edible substance in Asia Minor, an olive gray powder fell at Shanghai. Under the microscope, it was seen to be an aggregation of hairs of two kinds, black ones and rather thick white ones. They were supposed to be mineral fibers, but when burned, they gave out, in quotation marks, the common ammoniacal, ammoniacal smell and smoke of burnt hair or feathers, in quotation marks. The writer described the phenomenon as, in quotation marks, a cloud of 3,800 square miles of fibers, alkali, and sand, in quotation marks. In a postscript, he says that other investigators with more powerful microscopes gave opinion that the fibers were not hairs, that the substance consisted chiefly of coniferous, or the pathos of it, perhaps, or the dull and uninspired, but courageous persistence of the scientific. Everything seemingly found out is doomed to be subverted by more powerful microscopes and telescopes, by more refined, precise, searching means and methods. The new pronouncements irrepressibly bobbing up, their reception always as truth at last, always the illusion of the final, very little of the intermediatist spirit, that the new that has displaced the old will itself someday be displaced, that it, too, will be recognized as myth stuff, but that if phantoms climb, spooks of ladders are good enough for them. Annual Register, 1821-681. That, according to a report by M. Lane, French consul at Pernambuco, early in October of 1821, there was a shower of a substance resembling silk. The quantity was tremendous. There was as tremendous as might be a whole cargo lost somewhere between Jupiter and Mars, having drifted around, perhaps for centuries. The original fabrics slowly disintegrating. In Annals de Chimie 2-15-427, it is said that samples of this substance were sent to France by M. Lane, and that they proved to have some resemblance to silky filaments which, at certain times of the year, are carried by the wind near Paris. In the Annals of Philosophy, NS 12-93, there is mention of a fibrous substance like blue silk that fell near Naumburg, Naumberg, March 23rd, 1665. According to Chladni, Annals de Chimie, 2-31-264. The quantity was great. He places a question mark before the date. One of the advantages of intermediatism is that in the oneness of quasiness, there can be no mixed metaphors. Whatever is acceptable of anything is, in some degree or aspect, acceptable of everything. So it is quite proper to speak, for instance, of something that is as firm as a rock and that sails in a majestic march. The Irish are good monists. They have, of course, been laughed at for their keener perceptions. So it's a book we're writing, or it's a procession, or it's a museum, with the Chamber of Horrors rather overemphasized. A rather horrible correlation occurs in the Scientific American 1859-178. What interests us is that a correspondent saw a silky substance fall from the sky. There was an aurora borealis at the time. He attributes the substance to the aurora. That's kind of weird. How would that work? That's pretty wild. Since the time of Darwin, the classic explanation has been that all silky substances that fall from the sky are spider webs. In 1832, aboard the Beagle, at the mouth of La Plata River, 60 miles from land, Darwin saw an enormous number of spiders, of the kind usually known as gossamer spiders, little aeronauts that cast out filaments by which the wind carries them. It's difficult to express that silky substances that have fallen to this earth were not spider webs. My own acceptance is that spider webs are the merger, that there have been falls of an externally derived silky substance and also of the webs, or strands rather, of aeronautic spiders indigenous to this earth. That in some instances it is impossible to distinguish one from the other. Of course, our expression upon silky substances will merge away from expressions upon other seeming textile substances, and I don't know how much better off we'll be, except that if fabricable materials have fallen from the sky, simply to establish acceptance of that may be doing well enough in this book of first and tentative explanations. In All the Year Round, 8-254, is described a fall that took place in England, September 21st, 1741, in the towns of Bradley, Selborne, and Arlesford, Alresford, and in a triangular space included by these three towns. The substance is described as cobwebs, but it fell in flake formation, or in flakes or rags about 1 inch broad and 5 or 6 inches long, in quotation marks there. Also, these flakes were of a relatively heavy substance, in quotation marks here. They fell with some velocity, in quotation marks. The quantity was great. The shortest side of the triangular space is 8 miles long. In the Warnerian Historical Society transcription, I'm guessing, 5-386, it is said that there were 2 falls, that they were some hours apart, a datum that is becoming familiar to us, a datum that cannot be taken into the fold unless we find it repeated over and over and over again. It is said that the second fall lasted from 9 o'clock in the morning until night. Now, the hypnosis of the classic that what we call intelligence is only an expression of an equilibrium, that when mental adjustments are made, intelligence ceases, or, of course, that intelligence is the confession of ignorance. If you have intelligence upon any subject, that is something you're still learning. If we agree that that which is learned is always mechanically done, in quasi terms, of course, because nothing is ever finally learned, it was decided that the substance was spider's web. That was adjustment, but it's not adjustment to me, so I'm afraid I shall have some intelligence in this matter. If I ever arrive at adjustment upon the subject, then upon the subject I shall be able to have no thoughts, except routine thoughts. I haven't yet quite decided absolutely everything, so I am able to point out that this substance was of quantity so enormous that it extracted wide attention when it came down, that it would have been equally noteworthy when it went up, that there is no record of anyone in England or elsewhere having seen tons of spider webs, in quotation marks, going up. September 1741. Further confession of intelligence upon my part, that if it be contested, then that the place of origin may have been far away, but still terrestrial. And that's where we're going to stop with that, because I don't think we have enough time to, the next paragraph is it's a good little size there. So, we have this whole thing with possibly spider web-like material, but then doesn't act like it all the time either. So, so there's all kinds of things here. I'm really amazed by this, because I reviewed the books before in a summarized manner and didn't get anywhere near all these things before. So anyway, thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.